Well, black people are Native Americans. We've had a lot of proof that some of us started here in this land. Everybody wasn't brought over from Africa.
What are they doing here? They're Indians.
This is one of my many unsuccessful experiments. You see, with Indians, there's absolutely nothing to be done. There's the same difference between a Negro and an Indian as there is between a dog and a coyote. You can put a dog on a leash, beat him, and he'll always be there to lick your feet. Take away a coyote's liberty and you've cut off his heir. An Indian will never be a slave. No one has ever been able to make them reproduce in captivity. They do not eat, they do not talk, they do not sleep, they do not make love.
There are several things that are significant about it. Of course, one of them is the way that colonialism tries to develop all kinds of elaborate classification terms for different kinds of people, but that's another subject. The most significant thing here is to reveal the much greater amounts of Native American ancestry that are present within the African American population than most people realize, because they might have been misled by the use of terms like mulatto and also people of color.
After the African, LeVar Burton, had been told that his name was to be Toby, and he refused it, and he was beaten to make him say his name was Toby.
That was the dramatization. How much of that actually was recounted to you? I mean, was there a lot of interweaving?
A lot of it, I thought maybe you were going to ask, and maybe you are in another way, is how much of the book is fact and how much is fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction.
Now, this is just a tiny bit of information now.
But they take it as huge.
Right, because it's cracking open the door.
There's a place in Africa you could say that I'm from. A tribe? I am thrilled. It puts a name, a place, a location, a people.
Hank Greeley is concerned that the science isn't really there yet for you to be giving them the name of a tribe.
I think for most companies, I would be concerned too.
But what about your own company?
We have
he
the largest...
He didn't exclude you. He included you.
But we have the largest set of sequences from Africa. And so with that, we're able to provide some level of probability in terms of frequency.
But he would say that even though you have the largest database, it's still small on the scope of things.
As I said, I share those concerns. We don't oversell. I mean, we just say, look, we provide a service. If you're interested in exploring a tiny bit of your DNA and trace its ancestry, we can do that.
When you say it's a tiny little amount,
it's less than 0.1%. Less than 0.1%. Less than 0.1%.
And that's pretty teeny.
Yeah, but for people who know nothing about any of them, I think it's very important.
You do not know a goddamn thing about Africa. I am from Detroit, Motown. So you can watch Tootsie your monkey ass back to Africa if you want to.
Hey y'all, I'm back. Like I never left. Oh, that's why I picked up this phone. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Come on in. Happy Educational Friday. We are here. Y'all already know why we're here. Just come on in. Just come on in. Let me pin this message to the top of the chat. And I hope you guys are doing well. Shout out to everybody in the building. Welcome to Educational Friday. This is a space where we learn and unlearn some things that we were lied to about. So come on in, take your shoes off, get comfortable, and get ready to unlearn and learn. Because I'm learning and we learning this stuff all together as we go. And what I found today is going to shock you because it shocked me. So I saw this video on YouTube, and it was talking about how the Brown versus Board of Education, which I know you guys are familiar with, but it was talking about the Brown versus Board of Education and how it took out 38,000 black teachers, right? I'm sorry, or schools, I can't remember. Either way, I saw it and I wanted to kind of elaborate on it, but in the midst of elaborating on that, I found that basically the whole Brown versus Board of Education, the whole NAACP involvement, all of that was a trick. The whole segregated schools thing was a trick. None of it was real. It was just propaganda pushed out to the media or through the media to Black America to trick us up out of our spots. Now, I said to myself, well, Vu, how can I apply that to today? I said, well, we're getting tricked out of our spots all the time emotionally today. And some might ask, well, what does that mean? I'll give you an example. Political. Every political cycle, emotionally, these politicians find a way to get us in our feelings and have us vote for things that we really don't need or things that are basically against our best interests. And those are the things and those are the ways in which we are emotionally charged and we make horrible decisions that ultimately negatively affect us. And that was the whole theme of the civil rights movement. If you think about the civil rights movement, the NAACP, the whole theme, when you peel back all the layers, was to trick the people out of thinking that they were oppressed so that they can really oppress them, literally, okay? So when I found that the Brown versus Board of Education, that whole ordeal was a sham, I had to come on here and show this to y'all. So that's what we're gonna do. And welcome to Educational Friday. Like I said, this is a space for unlearning and relearning. I employ everybody to research any and everything that I am saying, because you know what? We all humans and sometimes we make some errors or whatever. And plus you need your own understanding, not mine, okay? So please research what I'm saying and get the likes up on the video when y'all get in here. Now, before we get into what I want to say, I want to start off with the video that caught my attention. And it's a page that I just started subscribing to, like a lot of historic pages on YouTube. And the name of this page is Art Studios, okay? That's the name of the page. And Art Studios posted this video. And the name of the video is Brown versus Board of Education destroyed 38,000 Black teachers. Here's how / the part they leave out. Now, this is a very, very, very good video, very informative. The person who did this video, I like them. They're very well researched or whatever. And they talk about how the system was prior to us having this Brown versus Board of Education. And what I found in this is the facts are Black Americans educationally were outpacing the clears by miles. Remember, this makes all the sense in the world because Black Americans are the true indigenous people here. We were already here when loads of clears came off of a boat through Ellis Island. Remember that. We speak about this all the time on Educational Friday. The Black American had already been here. They've been here long before colonization, but let's just go with the 400 years. We were already here. The majority of clears that we see on a day-to-day basis are Johnny-come-latelys. They came in after the war, okay, and around that area. So when they came in, we were already stamped and solidified. We already had our own education systems. We already had our own banks, hospitals, everything. These were the people who needed to be getting established, not us. And that's how we have to tackle this situation. So when they came in, they were the uneducated and we were the educated. And for those of us who were not being educated, we started re-educating ourselves and still outpacing the clears. And that within itself made the clears say, OMG, we got to put a stop to this. And how did they do it? Emotions, witchcraft, spell work. What is the witchcraft and spell work, voodoo? All it is tricking you out your spots. Making you feel like you oppressed when you really not. They do it every political cycle. I watch them do it to y'all on both the left and the right. They do it flawlessly and it works flawlessly every time. So I need you guys to understand that what we're doing now is what we did then, and that's how we got here. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything you did has already been done. Let me also say this. The enemy is not smart. Black America, you are the smart person. You are the smart people. You are the one with the intelligence of the Most High. The only thing that enemy has over you is how clever and cunning it is, okay? And that cleverness and being cunning is what that enemy has prevailed with. It's what it has used to conquer nations. and most importantly, God's most precious nation, which is us, okay? And that's all they use. And they never switch up the formula. They just go over and over again. Wash, rinse, repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat. And this is why it is imperative in the age of Aquarius that we start unlearning a lot of this stuff that they taught us, because obviously, if they're going to set up the heist, they obviously going to give us a story to support the lie on the heist. And the heist is nothing. A lot of this stuff that we thought we were oppressed by, we really weren't. It was fed to us, and that within itself lies the witchcraft. So let's get into this video and pay attention to some of the things that this young lady, because it sounds like a young lady, pay attention to some of the things that this young lady is talking about when she speak about the status and the conditions of Black American education prior to this Brown versus Board of Education. Get the lights up on the video.
Its civil rights decision in U.S. history helped destroy it. The Preparatory High School for Colored Youth opened in 1870, the first public high school for Black students in the United States. By the time it was renamed Dunbar, it was already something the country had decided couldn't exist.
Oh,
Anna Julia Cooper had a doctorate from the
I don't mean to cut y'all off. I did mean to give y'all those notes. 1 second, my bad. So Preparatory for Black Excellence, I believe is the name of the school, which is now Paul Lawrence Dunbar High School in DC or Kansas. We're going to get into it. I got articles for it. It's still a school that is up to date. That is one of the first Black American school. And that school produced some of the best leaders that we have, okay? And it was that school and how excellent that school was going amongst other schools that made them create this whole trick bag that we call Brown versus Board of Education, Baltimore, Maryland. Thank you, Ariana. The school is in Baltimore, Maryland. I want to say they have multiple of these schools, okay? But anyways, they realized the amount of excellence that we were creating and we were pushing out to the system, and the enemy said, hell no. What they did was trick our minds and our emotions to thinking that we were way worse off than we really were, and they used the children to do so that they can literally switch. They can basically, how do you say it? Destiny swap with us. Now they look like the more educated and we look like the least. Let's get into it. Sorry, I just wanted to add that to it.
She taught Latin. Carter G. Woodson had a doctorate from Harvard, only the second Black American to earn one. He taught high school before he invented Black History Month. The most credentialed Black minds in the country built something inside that school that outperformed the people who had locked them in there. 2/3 of every graduating class went to college, including the Ivy League, at a time when barely 1/3 of white students nationally could say the same. Parents moved to Washington so their children could attend this school. Dunbar was proof that Black children, Black minds, and Black ability were never the problem. On May 17, 1954, the Supreme Court unanimously decided separate education facilities were inherently unequal. Brown v. Board of Education is one of the most important decisions the court has ever made. States resisted. A year later, in Brown 2, the court instructed unwilling states to integrate with all deliberate speed. No timeline, no enforcement mechanism, no details about which buildings close, which teachers stay, which children move where, just figure it out. And the people in charge of figuring it out were the same school boards behind segregated schools in the first place. 101 members of Congress signed what became known as the Southern Manifesto, denouncing the decision as an abuse of judicial power. Virginia's governor closed 9 public schools rather than integrate them. Prince Edward County stopped funding all public schools entirely. For 5 years, 1,700 Black children lived in a county with no public school to attend, while white families received taxpayer-supported vouchers to enroll in a private academy. Black children waited in living rooms and on porches in the suspended time where 6th grade and 7th grade and 8th grade should have been. If your family could not send you away, your education simply stopped. The county had functioning schools and chose to have none rather than share them.
Now, I want to stop really quickly just to add this piece, right? I didn't know this part. I learned that from this video. Apparently, there was a large gap, about 10 years, where Black Americans did not go to school. We didn't start having to go to school until the civil rights, Brown versus Board of Education thing popped off. Then they made it legal that we had to go to school. But remember, Prior to that gap, when we weren't going to school, we were highly educated, the most educated. This was not a mistake. This was not a coincidence. This was by design. You see, that's the same way they were able to trick us into believing we were from Africa. You cut the root, and then you let time pass, and then you retell the story to a new group of people. That's exactly what they did educationally. We were the highest educated. Then they came in with the segregated schools, right? And then in the midst of that, for 10 whole years, we couldn't get educated. That's what they do. This is by design. And this is how clever, not smart, but clever that enemy is. He knows why he did that. He did that because he knew it's chess, not checkers. He knew that I need long term for when we re-educate these kids. Number one, we teach them what we want them to know. And number two, we indoctrinate them in the way in which we want them to be. Okay? You know what else is going on around this time? Rockefeller, the education system. You get it? You see what I'm saying? So it was a whole lot involved in this, but I need y'all to understand the status of Black Americans in education. We were very, very, very highly educated, way more educated than the clears, outpaced them by miles. A lot of work strikes and a lot of riots and stuff happened because Black Americans were hired more because we were more educated, more skilled, more experienced. They tricked you into believing that they were. They were never. That's the trick bag. Let me get her back on here. Sorry about that.
10 years, almost nothing happened. By 1964, a full decade after Brown, barely 2% of Black children in the South had ever sat in a classroom with a white child. Then the Civil Rights Act passed.
Congress passes the most sweeping civil rights bill ever to be written into the law.
This Civil Rights Act is a challenge to all of us to go to work in our communities and our states, in our homes and in our hearts, to eliminate the last vestiges of injustice.
And Title VI gave the federal government something the court never had, a lever. Integrate or lose your funding. But the text said nothing about the teachers whose jobs would evaporate in the process. It said nothing about protecting Black principles, nothing about preserving Black institutions as centers of authority, nothing about what would happen when two systems were compressed into one. The law created pressure without designing a landing. Washington, D.C. moved more quickly than many Southern districts. In Bowling v. Sharp, the companion case to Brown, segregation in the district schools were struck down, and by September 1954, classrooms were officially integrated. The political compromise that made that speed possible was the adoption of neighborhood school assignments. Dunbar had drawn the most academically talented Black students from every corner of the city. Now it could only accept students from blocks around it. The teachers who had made the school what it was began to leave and retire. The new hires did not hold doctorates from the Sorbonne. The students who once traveled across the city to sit in its classrooms no longer could. Within a generation, the metrics that had once embarrassed white schools now appeared to confirm every lie segregation had told. Graduation rates declined, proficiency scores dropped, and the narrative shifted from excellence to deficiency.
Did y'all catch what happened just then? So what basically happened is what she's saying. Dunbar High School, preparatory for Black excellence, is what it was called prior to Dunbar High School, or at least during the time. Preparatory for Black excellence was getting children. They had people from all across that area coming to that school because that school bred geniuses, the most highly intelligent, highly skilled people from our community in the surrounding areas. Once they did the segregated school bit, that basically limited the amount of Black children that could go to the school. So all of those kids who were finding ways to get to this school no longer can go. Then remember, in the midst of that, you got a 10-year gap where a lot of kids are just not being educated at all. So then once they finally get the school back to where people are, I'm sorry, let me back up. So then they take the Black teachers that were in the school. These teachers start to retire. They probably start forced retiring. They're not going to say it was a forced retire, but I'm pretty positive they started forced retiring and firing a whole bunch of teachers who were highly educated, doctorate degree people, and they put in a whole bunch of idiots in there so that they can have the help decline or the helpful decline of the Black literacy. And then, and only then, is where you get now where they can say, see, These Negroes are ignorant. They're not smart. When we were, you took away our teachers, you took away the resources and the access, and then you put a whole bunch of other people in there and expected the same result. That doesn't go like that. This is why in Black American schools, most of the time, they're not taught by Black teachers. You see what I'm saying? But this is the trick. The trick is we were to take their spot and they were to take ours. We were to become the ignorant, the uneducated, and they would become the educated. That's the witchcraft. That's the trick. And even though it wasn't true at the time, they wrote it in history to where it is. Now it looks like it is, even though it isn't. But people have that mindset because they've written it into history over and over and over again. We were tricked, bro. We were tricked. Let me let this finish off, then we're going to get to the next thing. Y'all like the video, please, so the people can know we around here.
Before Brown, there were 82,000 Black teachers in the United States. More than 38,000 Black teachers and principals were fired, demoted, or forced out between 1954 and the mid-1970s. Some scholars, including Leslie Fenwick, place the number closer to 100,000, making it the largest purge of educator talent in the history of U.S. public schools. No state has ever recovered. These educators were not dismissed for incompetence. Many held advanced degrees that exceeded those of the white teachers who replaced them. They were fired because white school boards looked at Black women with a doctorate and decided she couldn't be trusted to teach white children. The National Education Association, the union that should have been defending them, took 7 years to even say Brown was right, 12 to desegregate its own chapters. When Black teachers' associations were finally absorbed, they were dissolved, along with the only collective structures actively defending Black educators. Brown v. Board of Education declared that separate was inherently unequal. It did not specify which half of the system would be dismantled to honor that declaration. The answer was always the Black half. The schools closed, the teachers were fired, the children were bussed into buildings that didn't want them, and the institutions that had proved, with evidence, with scores, with graduates who built the country, that Black excellence was never the variable, those institutions were demolished. Integration had a price. Black communities paid all of it. That's the part they leave out.
Shout out to this channel. I like this little video. Let me say this because I got a lot of downloads from just watching this video. Remember, this is all about a destiny swap. We were already here. We were already established. We were already educated. We were already in high places. We were already in politics. We were all of that stuff as far as when I tell y'all Black people, they better thank us. They need to thank us because we created everything. We already did. This was a very slow burn, a destiny swap. And that's what they did. But they physically took out our teachers, fired over 100,000 teachers because they say 88,000. I'm going to go with way more than that. They fired hundreds of thousands of teachers and put in poorly educated people that were indoctrinated to give us whatever they wanted to give us, took our schools or the abilities to go to the schools that were educating us away, and then turned around and gave them the clears, the newer buildings, the newer books, and deemed them to be smarter. Not that they were, because even in 2026, clears are not educationally more intelligent than Black Americans. They're not. Not collectively at all. Clear people are no shade. Shout out to, they may have a couple of clears on here. I'm not speaking about you specifically. I'm just speaking about your kind. Y'all are not intelligent people. They're not. Clever, cunning, sometimes they can be a bit smart, but intelligent, none at all. No, that's not their stronghold. That was us. But in order to destiny swap with us, they got to make us believe that they are the intelligent and we are inferior. And all they got to do is physically change our atmospheres, our environments. And once our environments start to match with the indoctrination they're trying to send us, we begin to believe it. So I showed y'all this video, right? Before we get into, I want to get into Dunbar, the school itself. Let's get into Dunbar, the school itself, because I think that's very important. And remember, Dunbar wasn't the only Black excellence school that we had. Dunbar is a representation of what was going around the country, okay? Because this is the stuff they're not teaching us in history. So Dunbar, aka the school of preparatory of Black Excellence, I believe it was. I'll find it on here. Dunbar, the evolution of America's first Black public high school, like the young lady mentioned in the book or in the video, this school produced some of the cream of the crop in America. The teachers that taught at this school were not just educated. We talking about people with doctorate degrees teaching at a high school. So you know this ain't no regular schmegulars. These ain't just no women who teaching y'all how to play five, add 5 plus 5. They're probably getting education higher than any of those clears because they don't have those type of teachers. Who are the scholars? Who are the clear scholars that by and large are teaching the clears? They didn't exist because the scholars back then was us. Okay? So keep that in mind. But this school produced some of the cream of the crop going across America. It said in January 1917, Paul Laurence Dunbar High School celebrated the dedication of its new $550,000 building with a week-long program showcasing its prestige in the capital city, as the Washington Times reported. It says the Dunbar High School was characterized as the finest high school in this county for education of colored youth by speakers at last night's dedication exercises held at the school on First Street between N and O Streets. The school was dedicated to a great work than this city has ever known. Now, I did look up Paul Laurence Dunbar, and he was an author, young author. He died at 33. Paul Laurence Dunbar, who they ultimately named the school after, and that's a whole other story. But Paul Laurence Dunbar was an amazing artist who died at the young age of 33 in the early 1900s. He published a lot of work that talked about life before and after emancipation of slavery. He published work talking about Black Americans on the educated side. Like it was almost like if there was reality TV in books, not reality TV, if there was like reality TV history in books, he was writing it, okay? And unfortunately, they say he died from pneumonia and alcoholism at 33. I find that to be quite suspicious. I think they killed him. That's what I think, okay? Yeah, they got Dunbar high schools all over. And let me just say this. One other download I was getting when I was pulling this stuff up. The reason why they took a lot of our schools and named them after people is so we're not inspired. Because just think about it. If you went to a school that was called Preparatory of Black Excellence, you would have more pride when you say that. You'd want to go to that school and want to be eager to learn. But when you say, oh, what school you go to? Dunbar. What school you go to? Johnson. You see what I'm saying? It takes kind of it kind of takes away the excitement of learning. And I think even though people may not think that is that big of a deal, those small subconscious changes can make the big difference, okay? But anyway, here's Paul Laurence Dunbar, the man who the school was named after. And like I said, he sounds like an amazing artist. I hadn't read any of his works, but just reading the titles of some of his books, I was like, yo, I might need to go get some of this stuff, okay? I want to read this little part to you. It says, just 5 years after the Civil War, the Preparatory High School for Colored Youth began holding classes in the basement of the 15th Street Presbyterian Church. Its purpose, economize teaching force and present the pupils of the school incentives to higher aim in education, okay? Here's the school. So it started out in the basement, all right? It says by the fall of 1891, enrollment has skyrocketed, so the school settled into a building on M Street, Northwest, near the intersection of New York and New Jersey Avenues, where it built an impressive facility. Particularly influential was Anna Julia Cooper, who served as a principal during the high school's M Street years and continued to teach at Dunbar after its 1917 christening. While education was recognized as a tool for progress, she steered the school's curriculum toward W.E.B. Du Bois' philosophy of classical liberal arts education. Every time I see his name, that pops up in my head. Courses included English, history, science, foreign languages, and fine arts. Dunbar was among the first Black public schools to have a Negro history class. 5 to 7 courses by day equated to 5 to 7 hours of homework for students in the evening. And for the students who needed to accommodate in education and regular employment, the school provided both night and summer classes. Now, let me just say this before we move on. The NAACP had its hand all up and through this whole bit. The NAACP had its hand in every single step of this thing. Now, let me say this. The download that I'm getting as I'm reading this is originally, this started off as something that was really supposed to be for the people. And then, like always, it was infiltrated by Black-looking people, the Boule, the NAACP, and those folks, okay? That's what I'm getting. That's the download I'm getting, that originally the intention was what it was, and then it turned into that, okay? Now, whenever I see W.E.B. Du Bois, I know that he's the head man in charge, the head nigga in charge over there at NAACP, and we all know the NAACP was not a friend to Black America. It took the last bit of anything that we had out of Black America. It was a facade, is what it was, okay? But yet still, the NAACP wasn't all bad. It did produce some of the most highly educated people we knew. So you got to take the good for the bad. But remember, just because something is good don't mean we disregard the bad. And just because something is bad doesn't mean we disregard the good. But I'm saying all that to say, because I want to kind of move forward. This lady who ended up being the principal, like the rest of the staff at this school, were very highly educated. People were finding ways, probably not even busing if they had to, but a lot of people were probably busing children, convoys, all kinds of stuff. Children were probably just walking, whatever they needed to do to get to this higher learning space, because they knew that this is what they needed in order to thrive. The clears that are coming off the boat through Ellis Island, they barely learning the language. They getting new names at this time. They're getting new names, new identities, new places to live. Okay, they getting checked to see if they don't have smallpox or chicken pox or something like that. They got a whole lot going on. While we already here establishing neighborhoods, businesses, banks, hospitals, schools. This is the part of Black American history they never want to talk to you about, okay? Now, I want to move on to another article really quickly. Let me share something with y'all that's a fun fact. It says between 1861 and 1900, more than 90 institutions of higher learning were established. I'm going to say that again. Between 1861 and 1900, more than 90 institutions of higher learning were established. Shaw University, found in Raleigh, North Carolina in 1865, was the first Black college organized after the Civil War. Other schools included Talladega College, Howard University, Morehouse College, and Hampton University. But let's go back to the very first statement. Between 1861 and 1900, 90 institutions of higher learning. Let's go with the move and say they mean colleges. Slavery didn't end till 1863. It wasn't completely abolished till 1865. So that means between 1861 and 1865, Negroes somewhere were still building higher education. How, Sway, if we were all slaves? And if you think about the majority of HBCUs, they are in the South, not in the North. So with that being said, we have to go back and think about what they told us about slavery. Yes, some of our people were in slavery, but this is obvious that all of us could not have been. Because if we were, there'd be no way we could be building 90 higher institutions of higher learning. You see what I'm saying? So keep that in mind. And this is only between 1861 and 1900. That is only between 1861, that's 40 years, and 1900. This is what Black America was doing that the enemy won't tell you about, that the school systems won't preach to you, okay? Keep this in mind. We always have been a highly educated group of people. We are still a highly educated group of people. I notice now we have a lot of black immigrants coming in, and they trying to cosplay and dig on in to that whole stigma. Oh, black women are so educated. When they say black women, they mean black American women. This is no shade. It's just the truth. It's just the God's honest truth. When they say black women are the highly and the most educated, they don't mean the black immigrant. They mean the black American woman. Not because, well, it's only because we've been doing this since the beginning of time. Okay? We had these institutions before the clear was even invented. That's a whole nother part. Let me read this little clip to you. It says, in 1899 class in mathematical geography studying Earth's rotation around the sun, Hampton University, Virginia, Hampton, Virginia Library of Congress. Now, let me ask y'all a question. If you had people with doctorate degrees teaching in high schools, what kind of curriculum do you think those children were learning? They damn sure wasn't learning 5 + 5. They damn sure wasn't learning 2 × 2. Remember, once they got us back into their educational law system, they control the doctrine. They control what we learned. That's why we all know the same thing, which is nothing. I see the dress code. The dress code is something serious, and that's another thing. Thank you for Sergeant King for pointing that out. Look at that dress code. These ain't no po niggas in there. These ain't no po niggas in there. And I'm not saying po niggas didn't exist, but what I'm telling you is the picture they wanted to paint to us was all the black people were poor and all the clears were doing good. That's not the truth. If you look at these pictures, ain't no po niggas in these photos. Okay? Now let's move on. Get the likes up on the video. Let me go to this article. Because I pulled a few articles I want to show y'all. Because I'm building my case. I'm building my case. Now, let's get to the Freedmen's School. Now, we all know about the Freedmen's Bureau. I told y'all, Scamala already took the Freedmen's Bureau and gave it to the immigrants. We talked about it on the Morning Joes a couple of times. Go and look this up. Look up Kamala Harris and the Freedmen's Bureau. She did a whole bit where she got up in front of all of these immigrants and said that these freedmen really wanted to make this for us. But now that I know what I know about the Freedmen's Bureau from the beginning, it was created by a white man anyway, so let it go. However, black people did lose a lot, so that's a whole nother story within itself, okay? Anyways, I wanted to get into this article with the Freedmen's schools, right? Because this is kind of going to give us a window into what was going on around the time. Check it out. It says, previously, Southern states had prosecuted those found teaching slaves to read, write, or compute arithmetic because they believed knowledge among slaves would incite insurrection. Many former slaves felt the worst crime committed against them was their lack of education. Within 4 years, the Freedmen's Bureau increased the number of schools from 740 with 90,589 students to 2,677 schools with 149,581 students. In addition, it inspired the creation of several normal schools and black colleges, amongst them Howard and Fisk universities. In 1865, about 90% of black population was illiterate, but by 1880, it had decreased to 70%. This was an improvement of 20%, or at least 200% in 15 short years. Whenever our education falls off, that is by law. That is when they come in and say, hey, you can't do that. You can't teach these people this. That is when you'll see the numbers go to say, okay, now they're illiterate. But the moment they open up the schools to let us back in, we excel. Even under their doctrine, we still excel. Okay? So whenever you see these numbers jump and fall, just know that that's why. But I'm saying all that to say, we were super successful in the schools that we were building and the educating that we were doing to each other or for each other during this time. We did not have the problems to the magnitude that Brown versus Board of Education gave us or made it out to be. Now, this is the same thing that happened with the Civil Rights Movement, if you understand it correctly. The Civil Rights Movement was propaganda pushed out to the masses that literally made people forget what was real, and it happens today. They basically told a whole bunch of black people who really weren't suffering that just because they seen it on TV that they were suffering. And a lot of black people emotionally gave their energy to these causes, and that within itself spiritually helped them to take what was left from us, our land, our political power, our businesses, our resources, all of it. This is why I tell y'all to protect your energy and do not get caught up in the stuff that's on the internet and social media, even with these Epstein files. Even though we should be paying attention, when you put too much of your energy and emotion in that, it is by design so that they can distract you or at least get you in a situation where you can't excel. That's how they got us then. That's how they continue to get us now. They tricked a whole bunch of people during this time frame to believe that they were poorly educated and they needed the system of the clears. When the fact of the matter, it was the opposite. We were the highly educated. They were poorly educated and they needed our system. When they dismantled our teachers from our schools and fired some and then squirted some here and put some there, that was also done by design. Number one, they needed that education in their schools. Number two, we need to get it up out of their own schools. And number three, that's a surefire way to make sure that this education thing gets cut off. We've always had a knowledge and a thirst to be educated. This ain't nothing new, okay? We need to understand that. Long as we realize that we've been tricked, we'll understand how we've been tricked and know how to move for the next trick. Because this trick continues to happen over and over and over again. It's happening in 2026 right now. We're being tricked every single day. The internet got us in a chokehold. We're continuously being tricked, okay? Now, I want to get into Brown versus Board of Education. Hold on. Now, a lot of y'all may know about Brown versus Board of Education. For some of y'all who may need a refresher, we're going to get into it, right? Okay, 1954, Brown versus Board of Education. Before we get to 1954, what do we know so far? Black America in the 1860s all the way up to the 1900s, at least the early 1900s, or at least 1900, we had thousands, tens of thousands of higher learning education institutions. That's not including the regular schools, the elementary schools, the middle schools, the high schools, not the nurseries. This is only higher institutions of learning. Across Black America, education-wise, those of us who wanted to be educated were educated. We did not have an issue going to be educated until the government gave us an issue to be educated. And what did the government do? Continue to trick us by telling us we were least educated, shifting our environment, our reality to match that narrative. And after so long and so forth, it becomes the truth. So they took our excellent schools, dismantled them, spread all the people out, and then said, hey, Black Americans, y'all are just stupid. You're dumb. Then made it impossible for us to get the education for years. Then when they reopened the schools again and say, come on back in, they had this already set up to where the clears will look like they're here and the Negroes look like they're here. But it doesn't matter what it looks like. It matters what it is. Clear people are not highly intelligent the way that you think they are. They've never been. Very cunning, very clever. Intelligent, nah. That's you. You have the consciousness in the brain of the Most High God. That's you. Nobody else. Okay? Now, let's get into a little bit of Brown versus Board of Education. So it says on May 17, 1954, in a landmark decision in the case of Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas, the U.S. Supreme Court declared state laws establishing separate public schools for students of different races to be unconstitutional. It says the decision dismantled the legal framework for racial segregation in public schools and Jim Crow laws, which limited the rights of African Americans and other people of color. There is your witchcraft. Now, yes, it did limit rights for Black Americans. However, you see that other people of color, number one, adding other people of color is the witchcraft, and that's why they're able to benefit off of that today. And number two, to say that we had this limited amount of education was a gross characterization, if that's the word, of what was really happening. Yes, there was some of us that were limited to our resources in education, but by and large, that wasn't the case. But it don't matter if it was or wasn't. They knew that they had the witchcraft, the propaganda, the way to spark your emotions to have you make harsh decisions. And that's what they did through media, television, newspapers, all of these things. They did all of that to make you think you needed them when the whole time they needed you. Okay? It goes on to say segregation in schools. Elementary schools in Kansas have been segregated since 1879 by a state law allowing cities with populations of 15,000 or more to establish separate schools for Black children and white children. African American parents in Kansas began filing court challenges as early as 1881. By 1950, 11 court challenges to segregated schools had reached the Kansas State Supreme Court. None of the cases successfully overturned the state law. Let me say this. That is also a part of the witchcraft. These Black people, these Black parents who were going to file these laws, these cases, that was a part of the trick. That was a part of the stage play. These were actors, paid actors. The whole bit, paid actors. I need y'all to pay attention. All of these people who was going down here to file these cases behind this law, that law, I want to get my child in that school, those people were used as catalysts to get you to believe and fall for the trick bag that you were being oppressed the way that they say you were, okay? So what do I mean by that? If I see another Black woman struggling, because I'm a Black woman, I'm going to empathize with her and want to help her. I don't want to see another Black woman struggle in no way, shape, or form. Why? Simply because I have a connection there. The enemy knows that. So they chose Black people. They specifically picked Black people who were affiliated with the government to cosplay or act as real citizens fighting real cases to spark up the emotion in Black America. Are you tracking? So they were really filing cases in real courthouses, but it was all a sham. It was all a lie. It's survival. It wasn't real. Yes, it was real because it actually went through law, but it wasn't real in which you believe it, in the way in which you believe it. Yes, like Ruby Bridges, exactly like Ruby Bridges, exactly like that. It was more of a representation for what you thought it was going to be, but it wasn't that. So these people are going in 90 going west, filing these cases all over the South of America in different places, playing like, oh my God, we so oppressed. I want to get my kid into this school and they don't want to let my kid in. And because Black Americans automatically empathize with other Black Americans, all we hear is somebody Black want to get somewhere and some clear saying they can't. So what do we do emotionally? Gather ourselves around this person, rally around them, and we want to help them. We get caught up like this to this day. Right now, we getting caught up to it like that. Right? Every day on the internet, I watch Black people get caught up like that. And it irks my soul. Okay? I need y'all to pay attention because this is very important information. So they sent these people to run up there to these courthouses, file these cases, and because Black Americans empathize with each other, we saw it and jumped on the bandwagon. But for the majority of it, we weren't feeling that. We weren't going through a lot of that stuff. Not collectively. Okay? I told you there's nothing new under the sun. Everything you did has already been done. That enemy ain't smart. He just clever. So they get them people to go down there, file them cases. We rally behind it, put our energy behind it, thinking we're fighting for a cause that's going to help us, when really the very cause is to hurt us, to take from us, to dismantle us, to disenfranchise us. But as long as we rely on our emotions to lead the way, we will never see it, not at least for 100 years. Welcome to the party. You're late. I'm here to put it out there. Okay? Now I want to read one more little part. It says NAACP challenges segregation in court. This is how cutthroat the NAACP was. Allegedly. This is all alleged. This is all education space, right? But this is how cutthroat the NAACP was. They sent the actors in to file the case, made sure the judges that was filing or presiding over the cases was in on it, right? And then put out the newspapers through all of their NAACP partners to you so that you can see it and get your emotions attached to it. And they tried a whole case and made all of Black America believe this shit was real. Whole time they set it up. Whole time it's a play. Whole time the defendant and the plaintiff is not working for the same team. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? I hope y'all understand what I'm saying. It was all a play. Welcome. This is what they mean when they say the world is a stage. We got all the way down there and thought that we were helping another Black person fight for equal rights when the whole time that Black person is an Asian. He's not even real. Not in that sense. He's not even real as far as his cause. We got to be mindful of this because this is how we get caught up right now. Okay? It says, in 1950, the Topeka chapter of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or the NAACP, organized another case. This time, a class action suit comprised of 13 families. Well, what do you know? 13, right? That's that number. Come on, Freemasons. Come on, Boule. Come on, Illuminati. The basis for this plaintiff's or for the plaintiff's complaint were that their children were forced to walk or ride buses to reach segregated schools for Black children more than a mile away when the schools were for white children, close to their houses. Now, let's be clear. I've watched many documentaries on the busing system. The Black people did not want to go to school with the clears. Let me say that again. I have watched countless of documentaries on Negroes in the school busing system. Black people did not want to attend school by and large with the clears, and the clears did not want to attend school by and large with the Negroes. This was forced by law, but this is all a part of the plan. It's all a part of the play. The world is a stage, okay? It's all a part of the play to make it look real. But they're going to make it seem like it was something different. It goes on to say, it said the Topeka NAACP filed suit on their behalf. No, I'm sorry. Did I miss the basis for the plaintiff's complaint was that the children were forced to walk or ride buses to reach segregated schools for Black children more than a mile away when there were schools for white children close to their houses. The Topeka NAACP filed suit on their behalf in February 1951, but by August, the U.S. District Court ruled that although segregation might be detrimental, it was not illegal. Citing the U.S. Supreme Court decision in Plessy versus Ferguson, 1896, the judge denied relief on the grounds that the Black and white schools in Topeka were equal with respect to buildings, transportation, curriculum, and educational qualifications of teachers. Now, I need y'all to pay attention to this last part. See this part here? Because we're going to come back to this. The judges denied relief on the grounds that the Black and white schools in Topeka were equal with respect to buildings, transportations, curriculum, and educational qualifications of teachers. What this is saying is when they came to the courthouse citing this is so wrong and y'all got better schools, they denied it, saying that's not true. The Black schools got just as much good schools as the white schools. And this is the gag. We did. I know what the documentary gonna show you. This is why televisions were created, to change your reality. Television. What they did was go find some of the poor Black schools that we had and blasted them on NBC, blasted that on ABC, and it changed the minds of people's actual reality. Because if you keep listening and watching this stuff over and over again, and they teaching it at schools, and it's all talked about at the church, you'll start to believe it. If I tell a person, if I take you out of your home right now and put you in the middle of the jungle and tell you you a monkey for 30 years, at about year 10, you're going to start to believe that shit. Even though you know you're not a monkey. About year 5 or year 10, you really might sit around and say, I really might be a monkey. So and I need y'all to keep this in mind, because I got a documentary going to prove that this is right. When they went up there to the school saying, hey, this is wrong because we got poor schools over here and y'all not letting us into them white schools, the people said you a damn lie. Them nigga schools over there just as good as these white schools. And they wasn't lying. Okay? Now, the oppressed people want you to believe that that's a lie because they want to keep you in a low vibrational energy so you can never get to the bottom of this. But I'm telling you the truth. It says the plaintiffs appealed the U.S. Supreme Court in 1952 and were joined by 4 similar NAACP-sponsored cases from Delaware, South Carolina, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. Now, what we got here is squad up. Now, the game coming. Because, see, when they sent their first little partner, the first actor in there to go file the paperwork, the judge in the courthouse told him, hell no, nigga, ain't nothing wrong with y'all schools. Hell, some of y'all schools better than ours. Get your ugly ass from out here. That's what the clears told the first Negro, the first actor that the NAACP sent in. But listen how clever the NAACP is. And remember, they ran by the orange juice people. So you know they getting all of the good tea. So then the NAACP went and squatted up. They went and got a lawyer, the best lawyer from here, the best lawyer from there, and we about to go in here and we about to force you niggas to say that we got poor schools and let us integrate. But remember, this is all a part of the plan. None of this is coincidence. The NAACP works for the enemy, allegedly. They don't work for you, Black America. They never have, they never will. Their agenda is to work for the enemy. So they went bust through them doors, all 4 big ass lawyers, like y'all gonna let us in these schools. Okay? It goes on to say, it says, the court ruling combined these 5 cases under the heading Oliver L. Brown, etc., or ETALV, versus the Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas, ETAL. It says, as the only male plaintiff with 12 female plaintiffs, it says the Reverend Brown, red flag, Reverend, red flag, Freemason, red flag, Boule, red flag, it might be anything. The Reverend Brown was assigned to lead plaintiff in the Kansas class action suit and became namesake of the court's decision. He's another player. Chief counsel for the NAACP, Thurgood Marshall, argued before the court that separate school systems for blacks and whites were inherently unequal and thus violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. Now, this is where he found the loophole. I know a lot about loopholes and paperwork with constitutions and bylaws and stuff like that. I worked a lot in this. This is what he did. So they came in at first saying, hey man, we Negroes and y'all not letting us in y'all schools because y'all saying this shit is separate but equal, but it's not true because we got horrible schools. Well, then they went to court and the courthouse said, you a damn lie, nigga. Some of y'all schools better than ours. Get the hell from out here. So then they went back, squatted up with the lawyers and came back and said, we ain't gonna go off the premise that the schools is messed up. We just gonna go off the premise that according to the 14th Amendment, you can't separate us. There you go. Y'all get what I'm saying? They first came with the angle, oh, the schools is bad. Look, you got us in these post schools and we all jacked up. The books is all tore up. The children got water falling on their heads. You can't do this to us. And the judges said, get the hell from around here. So then they came back with the 14th Amendment and said, per this 14th Amendment, you can't say we separate. You got to give us equal rights to go through all of this land, because if y'all really know about the 14th Amendment, it's to say that this is your shit. Okay? So they came in with the 14th Amendment and was like, yo, you can't do that. Look, the bylaws say that because we Negroes, aka African Americans or whatever we calling ourselves at this time, you can't do that. So per law, it forced the judges' rule to have to rule in their favor. But this is not what they tell in America. They're pushing propaganda that this poor black man just wanted to enroll his kid into this school and these mean old clears wouldn't let him in. And let me show you how paid actors and even unpaid actors help to fuel this. You already got niggas and you already got crackers, right? You already got clears who hate who hate niggas, and you already got niggas who hate clears. So in order for them to be an unpaid actor, all you got to do is drop the bug, put the bug in their ear. Hey, you seen them niggas trying to come to your school? What? Jeff, get the pickup. Niggas are coming to the school. You get it? And this is how you get both paid and unpaid actors. Because if you already feeling some type of way, they don't have to tell you about the trick. They don't have to give you the tea. All they got to do is drop the little bug in your ear. Hey, man, you see? It's almost like, for instance, say you don't like somebody. Say it's this girl named Kiki, and you been saying, whenever I see this hoe, it's on site. I don't care what this bitch say. I don't care who she with. Bitch, we could be at the courthouse. When I see this hoe, it's on site. Let's say you already had that type of mentality about a girl named Kiki. If somebody come by you and you already waiting to run up to Kiki, you already waiting to catch up to Kiki. If somebody drop by your ear and say, bitch, you heard what Kiki said about you? You don't care if it's true or not. You already on 10. That's what they did with unpaid actors. So when you go and seeing all of these segregated school documentaries and you see them clears really mad and throwing stuff, that's why they were already on go. They are the unpaid actors. And unfortunately, Black America have a lot of them too. A lot of unpaid actors. I call them political parties. They the ones, oh my God, we are all gonna die. Oh my, that's them. Unpaid actors, just waiting for somebody to drop the bug in their ear so they could go with the move. You see what I'm saying? Now, why is this important? I want to show y'all this documentary I found. So I went and found the documentary because I'm like, I got these downloads, but I said, I got to show these people more than just my downloads. I got to show them something to corroborate the downloads that I'm getting in my doggone head, right? Let me pull it up. So I went and found this doc. And in this doc, they talking about Black and white, brown, and history of the Brown versus Board of Education. So basically what they're talking about is the Board of Education and what school was like and what was going on around the time, right? Now, remember that portion of that article I showed you where they went down to the courthouse and was like, hey, you got to let us into your schools because our schools are all poor and jacked up. And remember, I told y'all the courthouse was like, hell no, nigga, some of y'all schools better than ours. Hell no. And denied them. And then I told y'all they had to squad up with the lawyers and come back. In this documentary, there's a Black woman, and this is an older documentary, but there's a Black woman who's going to corroborate that. She's going to talk about what the state of Black schools were like compared to white schools. And she's going to say word for word, bar for bar, what I just told you. Check it out. Now, remember, I'm just giving this to y'all for confirmation. I trust my downloads, but this is for you to go do your own research and go see if what I'm saying is true. Check it out.
President Eisenhower addresses the Freedom Fulfillment Conference of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People in Washington, D.C.
I just want to add this part. This is President Eisenhower, right? He's talking to a whole group of NAACP members. These members do not represent Black America. On paper, they do. But these members do not represent Black America. As a matter of fact, they do not have the best interests of Black America at heart. They remind me of modern day, what they call them people, the Black Caucus. That's the exact same thing. You know how we have the National Black Caucus and we found out that they were the ones trying to block reparations? Exact same thing. So Eisenhower addressing these Negroes in this room don't matter. They're all on the same team. Need you to understand that, okay? It doesn't matter that you see Black faces with this white man. He ain't talking to or for us. Everybody in there on the same team.
Leaders of the group hear the president assure his support for their objectives as the NAACP launches the strongest drive in its history.
But I believe that this struggle, this one that in your case now has gone on for these many decades, is producing results. On the part of this administration, I stated my own personal view many times before the election. I have tried to state it since. Wherever the federal authority clearly extends, I will do the utmost that lies within my power to bring into living reality this expression of equality among all men who are citizens of this country.
President Eisenhower's address to the NAACP in the summer of 1954 came 2 months after the United States Supreme Court handed down one of its most momentous rulings. On May 17th of 1954, the court announced its decision in a landmark case that would radically alter the course of American history, opening a new chapter in race relations and civil rights. The ruling involved appeals brought before the Supreme Court by plaintiffs in 4 states and the District of Columbia. Each case was unique and has its own story to tell. This program concentrates on the experiences of those associated with the case that originated in Kansas, the one that received top billing in the Supreme Court's decision. Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka. The decision rendered by the Supreme Court in 1954 is often referred to simply as Brown v. Board. The full title of the ruling cites Oliver L. Brown as the lead plaintiff. A lifelong resident of Topeka, Kansas, Oliver Brown was employed as a welder in the shops of the Santa Fe Railroad. He also served as an assistant pastor at a local church. He passed away in 1961, but his youngest daughter, Cheryl Brown Henderson, continues to play an active role in educating others about this case and her family's role in it.
The neighborhood we lived in was an integrated neighborhood along First Street. And every morning, the African-American children that lived along that stretch, that block or two, would head off in one direction, and the white children living next door would head off in another direction. And for the children, I don't think it was problematic. You know, kids are very accepting of how they live. The African-American schools were good schools. The facilities were built by the same person, so we're not talking about substandard facilities with leaky roofs and outhouses like they were in the South. The teachers were well-trained. Many of them had advanced degrees, so we weren't talking about a poor education. You know, we're not talking about having to walk miles, because in South Carolina, the children walked 10 miles. In Topeka, they walked a few blocks and caught a bus. So we weren't talking about real hardships here. We were talking.
Pause. When you look up segregated schools on any platform or even in any book, they'll make it seem like the black schools were poor, they were horrible, the children could hardly read, they didn't have books, and they did have some schools like that. But that was not the collective. That was not what was happening across Black America. Across Black America, we had good schools. We were architects. We were building our own schools. We didn't need them to come help us build nothing. We were the architects. We built it. So I'm going to rewind this lady one more time, and she's describing to you what was, now mind you, this is Topeka, Kansas, but this is what I'm learning when I learn about history. Topeka, Kansas is a mirror for what was happening all across America. What happened in Virginia, happened in Louisiana, happened in California, happened in New York. They give you small windows of places, so you'll think these are isolated incidents. They are not. That's why they first had us thinking Tulsa was the only Black Wall Street. Come to find out, it was a Black Wall Street in every major city. So when this lady is describing these schools in Topeka, Kansas, she's describing the schools all across America. We were not in substandard living places. We've never been. We didn't get into that until they started putting us in the projects. You get it? Prior to us living in the projects, we didn't live like that. So she's describing to you what the schools were like, and not only the schools, what were the teachers like? We were not in substandard living conditions or educational conditions. That was fed to us through propaganda to destiny swap with us.
He passed away in 1961, but his youngest daughter, Cheryl Brown Henderson, continues to play an active role.
And can I say, your daddy was handsome AF. I know your daddy had women in that church and in that neighborhood. Your daddy was handsome, girl.
In educating others about this case and her family's role in it.
The neighborhood we lived in was an integrated neighborhood along First Street. And every morning, the African-American children that lived along that stretch, that block or two, would head off in one direction, and the white children living next door would head off in another direction. And for the children, I don't think it was problematic. You know, kids are very accepting of how they live. The African-American schools were good schools. The facilities were built by the same person, so we're not talking about substandard facilities with leaky roofs and outhouses like they were in the South. The teachers were well-trained. Many of them had advanced degrees, so we weren't talking about a poor education. You know, we're not talking about having to walk miles, because in South Carolina, the children walked 10 miles. In Topeka, they walked a few blocks and caught a bus. So we weren't talking about real hardships here. We were talking about the principle of the thing.
In the 1940s and early 50s, there were 18.
You heard him? We weren't talking about real hardships here. We were talking about the principle of the thing. And even when she described schools in South Carolina, the only thing she said that was bad was that the school was 10 miles away. She said here, the schools are blocks away and you can catch a city bus. That's the only thing she said about the Southern schools being bad. She said it wasn't like the schools in the South. They didn't have to go walk 10 miles to get to school. We had school buses and the schools were blocks away. She even said the kids thought it was normal that the black children went to their schools and the white kids went to theirs. It was propaganda who told you it wasn't normal.
Elementary schools for Caucasian children in Topeka and 4 for African Americans. The system of segregated schools was based upon a state law enacted in 1879, a law that had been challenged many times.
And that law, in essence, was two-tiered. It said that only cities of a certain size, 15,000 or more, could have segregated schools, and then only elementary schools. So those early cases, many of them that were in small towns like Ottawa and Parsons and Galena, were successful in the state Supreme Court because, according to state law, they were second-class cities and could not have segregated schools. So Topeka, Wichita, Kansas City, the larger communities had segregated elementary schools. And that's what the Brown case in Kansas was challenging, unlike its companion cases in the other states.
In the other states that would become associated with the case known as Brown v. Board, there were significant disparities between schools for whites and those for blacks. Such was not the...
Because images mean so much. They'll show you these pictures of a black family on a doggone in front of a shack with no shoes on, and they'll make you think these people were poor and they had nothing. And I'm not saying that they did or they didn't, but they stage stuff like this to make you believe that it's something that it wasn't. And it don't be true.
Case in Topeka, as those who attended the black schools will attest. A former chief of the Topeka Fire Department, Joe Douglas, looks back upon his years in Monroe Elementary with great fondness and appreciation.
Well, it was one of the greatest experiences looking back over my life, the greatest educational experiences that I could ever have. And I would wish that for every child that you could have the kind of nurturing and the kind of individual attention to the fact that you are learning and progressing that I had at that time. The teachers were excellent at that time.
And part of that was because these teachers couldn't teach any place other than black schools.
That wasn't why.
They were constantly honing their skills. Let
me tell you, that's another trick. It's another trick. That's that half glass empty trick. They will make you believe that these teachers were only excellent because they had to be in a black school. That's not the truth. Them teachers had no want to go and teach by them clears. They didn't want to go over there. What people don't realize and don't want to say out loud was black Americans were just fine amongst black Americans. We did not have a thirst and the desire to go be amongst them people. I hate when we're framed as if we only had to be excellent out of oppression. That's not the truth. Those black teachers were excellent because they were excellent, not because they couldn't get into a white school. It just doesn't make any logical sense. Even in 2026, black Americans do not like lingering around clears. We don't like living around them for the most part. We don't like partying with them for the most part. We don't go to the same churches with them for the most part. Today, and right now, we don't like being around them people like that. So what would make y'all think that it took us to be excellent because we couldn't get in their schools? Niggas ain't trying to go to no all-white schools. Only certain niggas when they get money and they start thinking that that's the way to go. But black Americans do not try to be amongst them people. We never have and we never will. So I want to correct that statement. Those teachers were not excellent because they could not get into a white school system. They had no desire to get into a white school system like today. The only reason y'all even made it a factor, or they made it a factor for black people wanting to integrate, is because they started moving the goalposts. Okay, in order to get these jobs, you got to go to these schools. Well, these are white schools. Or in order to get this salary, you got to have this degree. Well, in order to get that degree, I got to go to that school. It was the play. That's what it was. It was a big play. Tricked us clean out of our spot, destiny swapped with us like a dog.
Because they didn't have anything else to do with it. There was a time when black teachers couldn't even be married.
In the early 1970s, Jack Alexander became the first African American elected as a city official in Topeka, serving as water commissioner. Through 6th grade, he attended Washington Elementary.
Yes, I always felt that the black teachers, simply because the pool was so large that you got the best of the best.
I came to Topeka in 1944 to teach at the intermediate level of the black schools.
Merrill Ross served as a teacher, coach, and principal in the Topeka school system for almost 30 years. A native of Kentucky, Merrill saw Kansas as a land of opportunity.
In 1940, my dad's sister that had come to Coffeyville, Kansas to live, encouraged me to come to Kansas because she felt that
He looked like he either mixed with Asian or he Filipino. Let me tell y'all something. A lot of Asians, not a lot, but there were some Asians that came into America that blended and tried to blend in with a black America. And some of them did mix, okay? Not a lot, but some of them did mix. He ain't no 100% nigga, okay? If he is any nigga, he's probably mixed. He may be Filipino because those were here too. But they did come and kind of, you even seen it in the movie Sinners when one of the stores was Asians. They always let them own stores and stuff in our neighborhoods. They've come back and forth. So keep that in mind. Just because they black looking don't mean they always was.
Kansas schools were a little bit better than what Kentucky schools were offering.
On a trip to Ohio to recruit new teachers for Topeka, Merrill met his future wife, Barbara. She came to Topeka in 1947 and began teaching at Washington Elementary, one of the 4 schools for blacks.
I feel they were good schools, and they had qualified black teachers, very qualified. Many people, well, I'll say some people, felt that the supplies and things that were furnished in the buildings were not comparable with those in the white schools, only because they were probably older buildings. They had the same books. And we've heard a lot of things about that, but they've had the same books that the others had because so many of the black teachers were on the committees to select the books, the textbooks. So we know we had the same books that they did.
Pause. Remember, under what they try to teach us, we were oppressed. We didn't have good books. We couldn't learn by ourselves. The buildings were bad. Everything was torn down. Children was getting rained on their head. They couldn't read. Remember? That's what propaganda wants you to believe. This lady said outside of the building being a bit older, not anything else. Outside of the building being just a little bit older, we had the same stuff, the same books, because our black teachers were on the committee to select the books. So I know we had the same books. The rest of that shit was propaganda. The rest of it was propaganda. Remember, they want us to believe we needed to integrate into their schools because they had better books, better schools, better curriculum. That lady just said that's a lie. They had the same. Trick bag. Pay attention.
It's true, everything wasn't just right because the things in the community weren't just right. We couldn't go and eat any place. We couldn't go to the theater and sit any place. We couldn't live in an apartment or go to a motel. We had to stay with a black family when we came here to teach.
I think racism was that subtle thing. If I wanted a hamburger, there were places I could go buy a hamburger. They'd put it in a sack and I'd have to take it and leave. You could not eat at the downtown lunch counters.
It was, well, the theaters were segregated, restaurants were segregated. There was always somebody telling you you could or you couldn't come in.
I knew that, when I go to a theater, if I went to the Grand Theater, I had to sit in one corner. And if that corner was full, I couldn't even go to the theater, even if half the other theater was empty.
Looking back on it now, it was a lot worse than I could have imagined at that time.
And that's how they got you. You weren't oppressed educational wise. Hell, you wasn't even oppressed in your real life. What they did was create a false sense of superiority using their systems. So, okay, we need them to think that they're poor and they need us versus us needing them. So how do we do that? Let's make these exclusive situations. We're going to open stores and say, y'all can't come in. Or y'all can buy food, but you can't sit at the counter. Or you can sit at the counter, but you can't. You see what I'm saying? Once we apply these stipulations to these people, they'll begin to believe that we're superior. Mind you, we making them believe that they need us when the fact is we need them. Here's the destiny swap. Now, because all of these attributing factors were happening around the education, emotionally, listen, it's easy to trigger these group of people to think that you're oppressed because when you look up around you, it is kind of messed up. I can't go into that grocery store that you can go in. I can't go sit at that lunch counter, even though I don't even want the food. It don't matter. I can't sit down at that lunch counter. So when somebody come to me and say, hey, man, y'all being oppressed educationally, without thinking, I'm going to probably go, yeah, we sure is. We not. To be completely honest, you wasn't oppressed the first 3 ways they told you about it. We should have kept that damn segregation. If we would have kept segregation in place, white people would have died off by now. Literally. I'm not even being funny or mean. If we would have kept segregation, we would not have a class of white people right now. They would not exist. They would have already died off. Already. They knew that. We didn't know it. They knew it. But in order for them to get us, to give them our destiny, they have to trick us into believing that they are us and we are them. So it was an easy trick bag. We don't have to oppress them educationally. We know they smarter than us. Let's go nitpick with them on this. Nitpick with them on that. That'll get them. And by the time they get all frustrated with them little nitpicks, all we got to do is say, see, you oppressed. And you're going to be like, you know what? I am oppressed. And you're not. Mental gymnastics, mental manipulation, witchcraft. If it was a snake, it would have bit you. Please know that.
In 1942, a new superintendent of schools took control in Topeka. With degrees from Stanford and Columbia University, Dr. Kenneth McFarland became a popular author and public speaker. Sponsored by Reader's Digest and General Motors, he traveled throughout the nation, speaking about what he considered to be core American values. As Topeka's superintendent, he firmly supported the maintenance of the status quo when it came to race relations. He hired a director of Negro education, who strongly encouraged the African-American students to keep to themselves.
And the thing that is so strange, too, is just to have the elementary segregated, go into junior high and high school integrated. However, their social activities were still separate. There were separate kings and queens and separate basketball teams like that, because Merrill coached the Ramblers for about 4 years, and Topeka High had the Trojans.
When I went to Topeka High School, I had no frame of reference about the Topeka Trojans. I was going to play for the Topeka Ramblers. We only played against black teams. I guess the thing that I remember most is that we had to stay at people's houses rather than in a hotel. We had to eat. If there was a black restaurant, we had to eat there. Otherwise, accommodations weren't that good.
And that's how they get you. Little small things, little things that you don't think is a big deal at the time. So, okay, yeah, we'll give y'all your own team. Mind you, these are black and white students that are only segregated in elementary school. Once they get to high school, everybody together, everybody chilling. The clears go on their way, the Negroes go on their way. But remember, they're destiny swapping. They want the black Americans to feel like they're less than, and they want the clears to feel like they're superior. So in order to do that, you got to trick the ones who are really superior to think that they're less than, and trick the ones who are less than to start thinking that they are superior. So how do they do that? They let y'all go out and have your own teams, and then do little stupid stuff like, oh, you can go out here, but you can't stay at a hotel. Those small things play on the subconscious of a person, and after a while, it will start to make you think you're inferior to another group of people. That's the witchcraft. That's how they play on you.
That system, I think, just kind of passed down. I guess for myself, I would have to say I followed what I saw in front of me. I had parents who told me I could do anything, but I could watch them and also see that they couldn't.
I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful we are and be ashamed. I, too, am America.
The poet Langston Hughes spent his childhood years in Topeka and nearby Lawrence, Kansas. This leading figure of the Harlem Renaissance drew upon the adversity he had encountered as a youth to fuel his passion for a more civilized world. His prose and poetry was a harbinger of the change that was afoot in America.
One of the bigger things which started to affect it was also the change in the military that was happening at that time. We had guys going in and coming out, and we're experiencing other things. But yeah, I think from that...
Y'all know the Harlem Hellfighters? Y'all have heard about the Harlem Hellfighters? That was the black company from New York that ended up going into World War II, I think it was. Don't give me the line about the war, but they went into World War II. There was the Black Fighter Squad. They was like the Tuskegee Airmen type of shit, like Black Negro heroes. That's them.
Point on, things started to change.
In a Lincoln's Day address to a gathering of 10,000 before the memorial to the great emancipator in Washington, President Truman strongly advocates freedom and equality for all United States citizens.
Our immediate task is to remove the last remnants of the barriers which stand between millions of our citizens and their birthright. There is no justifiable reason for discrimination because of ancestry, or religion, or race, or color.
In 1948, President Truman issued executive orders desegregating the federal government and the armed forces. Many of those who first began to express a desire for change in the larger society were Black veterans who felt it was high time that all Americans be afforded the same rights. It was apparent that one of the first things that could be changed was the system of segregated schooling. While many Black families in Topeka may have been satisfied with their schools, a move got underway to challenge the system.
Remember, you heard that? While the Black people were satisfied with their schools, the move still got underway. We didn't want to go to school with them, and they didn't want to go to school with us. Let me see if I can find a doc for that.
The same rights. It was apparent that one of the first things that could be changed was the system of segregated schooling. While many Black families in Topeka may have been satisfied with their schools, a move got underway to challenge the system. It was led by the U.S. Army veteran McKinley Burnett.
So basically, McKinley Burnett, who was the NAACP chairperson, really issued a rallying cry, if you will, for 2 years, 1948 to 1950. Mr. Burnett attended every single school board meeting. He would take petitions with him on occasion, but really trying to get on that public comment part of the agenda so that he could talk about this business of simply opting to integrate the public elementary schools in Topeka. Well, unfortunately, Mr. Burnett never had a chance to be heard out. He never had a chance to say his piece.
McKinley Burnett was 52 years old when he took over the leadership of the Topeka chapter of the NAACP in 1948. According to the book Simple Justice, he was employed as a stock clerk in the local Veterans Administration Hospital.
I can remember he did not take a vacation. He saved his vacation time to go to the board meetings, Board of Education meetings, because they would set them at a time where he had to be at work, so he couldn't come. But he, as I say, saved all of his leave and would, so he could come to the board meetings. So, you know, as the book tells about them going to a school board meeting right before they filed, and him giving them an ultimatum saying, if you don't, you know, we will file the case. And one man, one of the school board members saying, well, I tell you, Mr. Burnett, let's just go outside and fight. And my father said, no, that's not the way I settle things.
After patiently enduring the continued snubbing by the Topeka School Board, McKinley Burnett decided to forge ahead with a legal challenge. He joined forces with the Scott family law firm, founded by Elisha Scott, a Black attorney who had been actively litigating discrimination cases in Kansas since the days of the First World War.
My grandfather graduated from law school in 1916, Washburn Law School. And prior decades before Brown, he was bringing cases in Kansas and throughout the country to gain admission for Black children to attend public schools.
Following in their father's footsteps, John and Charles Scott joined his law firm after their graduation from Washburn University Law School, continuing to press for integration and racial equality.
My father my uncle John Scott, and an attorney named Charles Bledsoe. They were exploring ways to mount a challenge to challenge segregation in the Topeka public school system.
And let me say this too, because remember, you got paid actors and unpaid actors. The unpaid actors are people who don't realize they're in the play. That can be civilians, that could be me, that could be you. I can be an unpaid actor. All I got to do is see something on the internet and believe it. If it's fake, I'm an unpaid actor, because me reacting to it as if it is real is going to make other people believe that it's real. So I want to be clear when I talk about paid versus unpaid actors. The paid actors, they're the ones who know what it is. They know what's going on. They privy to information that the mass majority don't have. But the unpaid actors are the ones that don't realize when they're helping out the program, right? When I'm looking at this NAACP, when I'm looking at these people who are on this thing, I'm looking at all of these people in NAACP, and I would be remiss to think that every single person in the NAACP is in on this. There were some people inside of that organization that thought they were joining a good organization to help out Black America. I'm pretty sure most of them realized once they got in it that it wasn't. However, there were some people who were probably in this thing with good heart and good intention. However, when it came down to what actually happened and how things were extracted from us, the key players that played those parts in there, they are not randoms. They are not regular, schmegulars. Oh, we just so happen to run into this Black lawyer. These are all paid actors with accompanied unpaid actors. You see what I'm saying? Keep that in mind. So we got paid actors that's helping out this cause, helping the clears and the enemy. And then you have unpaid actors that have no clue that they're still helping the cause and the clears, okay? Keep that in mind.
In addition to McKinley Burnett and the attorneys at the Scott Law Firm, another person played a key role in this effort to desegregate public schools. Her name was Lucinda Todd. Michael Blevins remembers her as his fifth grade teacher in an integrated classroom of the late 1950s.
I knew at the time she was an awesome teacher. I remember the first day of school, walking into her class and being I know I can still sense this, my jaw dropping open with her grace, with her beauty, with her dignity, and her affection. She was truly committed all of her life to elementary age children.
Mrs. Todd was unhappy with the status quo in Topeka for a number of reasons. Her primary reason for becoming involved with the NAACP
She looked mixed. She got some nigga in her.
related to her concern about the educational opportunities afforded her daughter.
They did not have music programs in the Black elementary schools. And Nancy was very gifted musically, Mrs. Todd's daughter. And it incensed Mrs. Todd that Nancy did not have access to basic music programs in school, like white kids had.
Now, you see, Mrs. Todd seemed like she would be an unpaid actor. Let me show you why I say she would be an unpaid actor. Let's go with the story. She is teaching in an integrated elementary school, probably Black, maybe white passing, depending on where she's at. But for the most part, people know that she's Black. And if they don't know she's Black, when they see her daughter, they damn sure know somebody Black, okay? Because that little girl definitely looks Black. This is why she would be an unpaid actor, because in her mind, I got a kid at this elementary school that can't even partake in certain things. And as a Black person, and especially as a teacher here, why in the hell wouldn't my child be able to partake in the things that I know that these people have? You see what I'm saying? So this is how somebody like her would join this situation as an unpaid actor, not realizing that she's fighting for a cause that's going to ultimately hurt us. In her mind and in her reality, it makes sense. These people can't be blamed because in their mind, they're doing the right thing. There was a lot of our ancestors that were unpaid actors in a lot of this stuff. We were tricked. And this is where the trick bag comes in. They specifically and purposely put this type of situation there so that a person like this lady could see it and have this exact reaction to help them screw us. Mind you, she's not doing anything wrong. What she's doing is fighting for what's right at the time. These are unpaid actors. But in the grand scheme of things, not realizing that the whole thing is a setup. The whole school system is a setup for you to do exactly what you're doing. These are unpaid actors, okay? And that's what I'm getting from this situation.
With a great deal of passion and enthusiasm, Lucinda Todd accepted a job as McKinley Burnett's assistant at the Topeka NAACP. She hosted visitors from out of town and often provided a meeting space in her own home.
They met once in a while somewhere else, but most of the time they met in the Todd home, in the dining room, around a dining room table.
Although the local NAACP chapter wasn't large, its members included a number of well-educated professionals affiliated with the prominent psychiatric clinic established by C.F. Menninger.
And look at the people behind the NAACP.
And his sons, Will and Carl.
A lot of people don't know it, but Menninger in Topeka was certainly monetary help. They came out, and at that time, I think they were all psychiatrists, and at that time, I think there was only one black. Can't even call his name.
Is it not a red flag that these people that are in charge have real extensive backgrounds in psychiatry, in psychology? The Clears that are backing and in charge of this whole NAACP franchise, they got backgrounds in psychiatry? Remember, I told y'all this is the Jedi mind trick. We got tricked, destiny swapped. And the 3 clear men that was put up here have backgrounds in psychiatry. Just like I tell y'all, these pastors got backgrounds in psychology. It's to learn how to play with your head, man.
Psychiatrists. But they came to the meetings with their presence and their money. They certainly did.
In consultation with the national office of the NAACP, the local group in Topeka decided to proceed with a class action lawsuit.
So they came up with an idea that they would spend the summer of 1950 recruiting people so that by the fall of 1950, when school was about to start, they would have their class of litigants, plaintiffs, petitioners, whichever phrase you prefer. So at the end of that summer, after talking to fellow church members, NAACP members, personal friends, knocking on doors, they had assembled a group of 13 people. Of course, Mrs. Todd, because she was at the strategy meeting, was able to say right at the meeting that sign me up, that I will in fact be a volunteer, which in many ways makes her the first plaintiff in the Topeka case. But in the fall of 1950, with this group of 13 families, total of 20 children coming from these 13 families, they were instructed by the NAACP legal team to locate the nearest white school to your home, take your child or children and a witness, and try to enroll. And then
So
come
now
back.
this is what happened. They took that lady, her story or her situation, and tripled it. They told her it was like a pyramid scheme. They took Mrs. Tops and her situation and went found 12 other women with the exact same situation. Now, mind you, this is how they become unpaid actors. You already feeling oppressed. Things ain't going your way. You already feel some type of way. So here come the NAACP. Hey, look, come here. We about to show y'all how we going to get them to desegregate the school for you and your kids. Okay, what do I need to do? Go down there to the school, register your kid. Now, they're going to tell you no. That's cool. That's what we want them to do. Once they tell you no, you come back and tell us, and we gonna come back and take them to court. Remember, they had done turned them around earlier because they came first saying our schools wasn't up to par. The clear people say you a damn lie. Y'all got better schools than us. So they had to come back with the 14th Amendment. But remember, they also need energy to complete the witchcraft. They need people, innocent Black Americans, to come in and help enforce this. I see it done every day in 2026. And that's exactly what they did. The only people, it's a big joke and everybody is in on it, except the people really think they fighting for a cause. It was a play, man. It was a play.
Can tell us what transpired.
Most of those who signed on as plaintiffs in the case are no longer living, so it's up to their survivors to relay their stories. In the courtroom where the trial took place, they talk about what they know of the events that transpired half a century ago. Within this group, Zalma Henderson is the only surviving plaintiff.
I had 2 children, and we lived in North Topeka, and the buses picked them up from the east side of North Topeka and carried them to the far west side to McKinley School.
Having grown up in a small town in western Kansas, Mrs. Henderson had never attended a segregated school. From her experience, it seemed more natural that schools be integrated, and she was quite willing to sign on as a plaintiff when asked.
See?
I knew the attorney.
Look how you get that you look at how they got somebody else to come on board. Innocent person. Thinks she's doing the right thing. She's not used to being around segregated schools. So when they come to her and be like, hey, ma'am, look at what they got going on. They got segregated schools. If she believes that we should all be integrated, that's an easy target. You should come and help us fight. You know what? I should. Because this is wrong. They don't need to be segregating these schools. Unpaid actor. You get it? They don't have to let her in on the bit. They don't have to let her in on the trick bag behind the scene. All they got to do is trigger something in her that she already dealing with, which is the oppression they set up. Come on, man. Y'all got to catch up, man.
And when they came to North Topeka, they needed someone to represent McKinley. And they knew that I had always gone to an integrated school and that I could prove that the system worked.
See?
The mothers of Claude Emerson and Victoria Benson also agreed to take part in this lawsuit as they attempted to enroll their children in nearby schools that were off limits to African Americans.
As my mother did, she did try to enroll us in, that was Lowman Hill, because we used to have to walk past Lowman Hill to go to Buchanan School, which Lowman Hill was about 4 blocks away from us. You see, we was in an integrated neighborhood too. And it was just, you know, you pass the school, which was a bigger school than the one we had to attend. And some of our friends went to that school, which were not Black, and we had to go to this school.
I too lived about a block from Lowman Hill School, but we went to Buchanan. My mother was always a go-getter, and she was dear friends of McKinley Burnett and his wife, and that's how we became a part of plaintiffs. We also lived just about a half a block from the Scott, John Scott.
All of the plaintiffs who signed on were female, except for Oliver Brown, a close friend of Charles Scott.
At first, he didn't want to do it because all the ladies, you know, and he wasn't man. He just really didn't want to do it, but they prevailed upon him, and he finally consented to be one of the plaintiffs.
So,
Linda,
because for time's sake, and I'll share this documentary with y'all so y'all can have it and watch it later on, because this is a good documentary. But let me just say this, man. You got to know exactly what was happening in the time and why things went the way that it went. The NAACP, even though it has been postured and posted to us as if they were our friend, were absolutely not. The NAACP is another government organization that was used to take away our wealth, to take our land and our resources. The biggest play the NAACP used was put Black-looking people as figureheads so that we believed that they were on our side. They put their hands in all of the civil rights movements, and they also created the very environments that they wanted us to fight out of. The NAACP, along with the enemy, helped to create the environments in which we had to find our way out of. It's no different from not Uncle Tom's Cabin. What is that? Remember how they always say in the past that the clear people had to learn how to create slaves from another Black person? It's the same thing. They needed us to make this thing go the way that it went. So they create a situation to oppress us. Then they put in the NAACP to make us think that they're on our side when they are not. The NAACP belongs to the system that was created to oppress us. That's why the people in the NAACP, they never are poor. You'll never see a poor member of the NAACP. You'll never even see people who come cut off the cloth of people from the NAACP that are poor, because they are made sure that generationally they continue to have money, as long as generationally they keep the 90% of us poor. So they create a system to oppress the people, put in the fake NAACP to make the people think that they're going to come in and help them when they are not. And then those NAACP find unsuspecting black people who really want change from the system. And they go to these black people and say, hey, black people, the way that they're treating you is wrong. We need to fight for this, and we're going to help you fight. And these poor black people who are thinking they're fighting for their own freedoms and rights fall for the trick bag okie doke, not realizing you're not fighting for your freedom. It's all a game. It's all a play. It's all a lie. You've never fought for your freedom. It's never been about that. It's to make you think you're fighting for your freedom, but really what you're doing is just giving me all of your things, your resources, your land, your political and social power, your culture. You're giving me everything in exchange for what you think to be freedom. The fact of the matter is this: when it comes to Brown versus Board of Education, Black Americans were not by any metric undereducated or underqualified. All the way up to 1900, we had thousands of higher learning institutions all around America, including hundreds of thousands of educational centers, elementary through high school. We were not oppressed to the point where we couldn't be educated. Yes, there were times in which we were taken out of the education system, but by and large, we have never been the undereducated populated class. It's always been them. They destiny swapped us and played us. They put us in an environment to make us think that we were jacked up when we weren't, so that we can give them all the rest of what we had. That's the NAACP, civil rights, and all of the rest of these clears that y'all thought were working by themselves. I told y'all they can't do it alone. They got to have some of us to come in and help them. And that's exactly what they did. And now we can't even read. We got children coming out of high school and they can't read. Literally. We got kids coming out of high school that can't write or tell time or know they blocks from their squares and they circles. When we taught our kids, they knew that stuff. But here come Brown versus Board of Education. Right after that happens and they desegregate the schools, they fire a whole bunch of black educators, make the black educators that were to continue to educate people have to go through their system, which is a whole big indoctrination system. And now we can't read. We were played by the Brown versus Board of Education. It was a trick bag and we got played. For lack of better terms, y'all already know what it is. It was all a lie.
It's survival. I guess somebody lied. Smells like somebody lied.
It was all a lie. Guys, it was all a lie. She lied.
It's sad. It's sad. We have so much undoing to do. We are not even in the beginning of the storming phase of what it is we need to be doing to get back to where we need to get to. But we'll get there. Let me just say this. This is about the age of Aquarius. This is about knowing. This ain't about thinking. I employ everybody on this channel to go and research every single thing that I said. I need you to do that because I need you to know. I don't need you to know it because I told you. I need you to know. So please go do your research on what I'm saying and you'll see that we got played, bro. A lot of the things that they taught us in school were lies. A lot of the things that they showed us in church were lies. A lot of the things that they told us through TV, propaganda, and all other sorts of media were lies. You have to go and dig this stuff up for yourself for you to find out the truth. If you don't do that, you'll never know. Okay? Brown versus Board of Education, NAACP is all capped. Diva Kika, thank you so much for the super chat. Says the Clears kept good records. Amazon sells books names the Negro Yearbook. Records are as early as 1400. It will be a great book for Educational Friday. Thank you so much. I'll go check that out. Thank you, Diva. Dina Nicole, thank you for the super chat. Says, just order my babe crop shirt and BGC desk mat. I love you, sissy, and us too much. Thank you so much for the support. Y'all, make sure y'all hit that link at the top of the chat. Get you some babe gear. Babe is the new wave. Y'all already know what it is. Black Americans versus everybody is the acronym. So go ahead on, and get y'all some babe gear so y'all can get in line, honey. Thank you, beautiful, for all the support. I appreciate you. Rapping Radiant, thank you for the super chat. Says the original petition was signed in South Carolina. My people signed first. I have a copy of the original petition. Wow. They moved that case to Kansas. My people lost their jobs and had to move behind that case. Oh, wow. That is insane. See, your family is a part of history. And this is why I tell y'all, keep that genealogy. Go get y'all records, man. Them people, and hey, Rapping Radiant, you could probably sue the government because the way they did your people was wrong and unconstitutional. Go do that genealogy, man. Chocolate Bunny, thank you so much for the super chat. Says, one, sorry to be off topic, but how much we got to put in for you to do an interview with Flag Boy Jizz? Nothing. Get him to me. You ain't got to give me nothing. Get Flag Boy Jizz over here and I'm on it. And she says, I think NAACP should be sued for reparations as well. Absolutely. I'm traumatized from being sold out. Yes. See, that's part of the awakening. Part of the awakening is realizing it ain't just about white supremacy. It's a lot of Negroes in on it too. And as far as the interview with Flag Boy Jizz, you don't have to be in me nothing. Just get me in touch with him and I'm on it. If you get me in touch with Flag Boy Jizz and he say he want to do an interview, I am on it. And as a matter of fact, I needed to see if I could reach out myself, being that I'm from the city. I'm going to find out somebody who know him. Thank you so much for putting that out there. And oh yeah, nah, thank you so much for the super chat. Says Black people in Kansas City, Kansas has Sumner High School, which became a world-renowned. Wow. Which became world-renowned. It says, the government from Topeka and Superintendent Plecker forced integrated Sumner against the Black community's wishes. And that's what I be talking about. Walter Plecker, Andrew Jackson, all of them people that were in those records and vital statistics, they were all playing a part in erasing the history of who and what we are and what we've done and accomplished on this land. This is why every time I come on here, I drill genealogy in y'all, man, because this is the stuff that we need to go back and right these wrongs. We need to go get these records. We need to go get all of this stuff that was taken away from us and make it right the wrongs. We have to. And we got to stop getting played and be more head over heart. Leave the hard stuff behind. Let's be head over heart. Let's be selective with what we use or what we choose to use our hearts for. With that being said, let me get up off here though. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Happy Educational Friday. I hope y'all enjoy the rest of y'all evening. They still got a little sunlight out. And I'll see y'all later at the dollhouse tomorrow at some point for some odd reason. See y'all later. Love y'all down to the ground. Take care of yourself and each other and do your genealogy, child. Bye.
Can you hear me now? Oh, let's go. It's your boy Big Chew, the voice of the beat. You know what I won't blaze up. Come on, blaze up.
It's the beat for me.
Wow, 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 wow. For your guy, for your B-O-Y. Drop it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Do it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Come on, baby, we live. For your boy. For your boy. Also for your boy. Mix it for your boy. Drop it for your, wow. Lift it up.
Mr. Carroll, how you give the voodoo doll time to talk? I don't get no fucking time to talk.
Who the voodoo doll is?
The nigga you just had up here.